Are you sharing your best content on social media, yet no one is responding? Are you frustrated and overwhelmed with the thought of having to produce more content? Today's topic, three things you need to know if you want your social media to tell your story. Welcome to the Influencers Journey Show. My name is Taria Hodge, and the big question we set out to answer each week is how does the average entrepreneur like us who started with little time, zero to little marketing budget, and no online presence get their authentic message in the marketplace and becoming a person of influence? And also, what skills must you learn? And most importantly, who are you required to become to magnetically attract your divine client and build a loyal following? Now, I am super excited for today's topic. Three things you need to know if you want your social media to tell your story. And the reason why I came up with this topic, I remember when I stepped out and I did a rebrand and I launched my new brand back in 2016. One of the things that I did, I thought that it was all about the imagery, it was all about the logo. So I did what most people do when they take a look at social media. I started to put out beautiful graphics, quote images, and especially on Instagram, having a nice IG board. So if that's you and you could relate to that, just go ahead and let me know. Now, one of the things though that I realized was happening and I became very frustrated was that even though I was putting such thought and effort behind the imagery of my brand, people still weren't engaging. And when I talk about engaging, this is what I mean. I would get a lot of likes because the images look good. Maybe the quotes were things that people wanted to hear or shared insight with them, but people weren't taking the next level of action, meaning they weren't reaching out, to have calls. We weren't connecting or anything like that. So one of the things that I realized had to change was I needed to find a better way to get engagement on my social media. And one of the beautiful things that came out of that journey is that I got introduced to the concept of story. And the reason why, I do this is because one of the things story did for my brand is allowed me to get my message into the marketplace. It allowed me to share my why. So why am I in business? And it also allowed me to share and identify who I am called to serve. And those people, I like to call them my divine clients. So, one of the things that I learned very quickly in that space is that stories is a thing that brings your content to life and gives you the opportunity to increase engagement. So, we're going to unpack that conversation today on this episode of the Influencers Journey Show. But before we get started, I want to know who of my super achievers are out there with me this morning. And so if you are out there, go ahead, drop a comment into the comment section and let me know you're watching. So I see Baskin Rags is out there watching from Ghana. Great morning, Baskin Rags. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining. And Barbara is out there. Great morning, Barbara. Love to hear more about this topic. Yes, so I'm glad that you're here. And we're going to dig deep and we're going to dive into this conversation today. So thank you for showing up. And then I see that there is a Facebook user out there that's saying, good morning, Taria Hodge. So if that's you, go ahead, drop a comment into the comment section. Let me know who you are. That way I could address you by name. And then there's another Facebook user. Mia Smith Collins. So thank you so much for joining us. Kelly King Jackson, thank you so much for joining us. And I said, I see someone who says that they are new. And Stephanie King, Manually, great morning, my dear. Thank you, ladies, so much for tuning in to our session today. So this is what I'm going to ask up front. I'm going to ask, first of all, a couple of things. So the first thing, if this is a conversation, like I said, I see people already saying that they want to hear more about this topic. As you go through, drop your questions into the comment section. And my commitment to you is to answer as many questions as I can while I'm on the broadcast. But if I don't get to your question, then I'll definitely come back after the show and answer your questions in the feed. And then also, if you know of another super achiever who would like to be a part of this conversation, look below the button or look below the video, hit the share button and share this out, or tag another entrepreneur, tag another super achiever into this conversation, because like I said, more than likely you probably know at least 5 people who wants to be a part of this conversation. And the last thing before we get it rolling, I want to go ahead and extend the invitation for our Unleash the Power of Your Story 5-day challenge. And so this is what we have coming up new. So my partner, Suzanne Hart, and I, we are doing a second installment of our Unleash the Power of Your Story 5-day challenge. Now, our challenge kicks off on Monday, April the 3rd through April the 7th. Now, this is for super achievers out there who know that you have a message and you want to get your message out into the marketplace. Maybe you want to do that on the live stage, or you want to be able to do it on virtual stages such as social media, Zoom, places like that, with the intentions of getting recognized, hired, and yes, I'm going to say it, paid what you are worth. And so if you would like to know how to best communicate the why behind your brand and exactly how you do that, you want to join us on our challenge starting next week. So if you take a look at the screen, you'll see that you could go to utpchallenge.com. The link is also in the description of the video. Just go ahead, click on the link, and make sure that you reserve your spot. And we are looking forward to seeing you on the challenge. And so, without any further ado, for those of you who are just joining us, welcome to the Influencers Journey Show. Today's topic: 3 things you need to know if you want your social media to tell your story. And once again, I'm Taria Hodge. Now, here's the thing, the first thing that I want to take a moment to unpack. And the first thing I want to share is that when you take a look at your social media and you start to take a look at content, every every piece of content that you put out there should be content that represents your brand. So, how many of you are sitting there asking yourself the question, or have ever asked yourself the question, what should I be posting on social media? So, if that's you, drop a comment and let me know. If you get kind of tripped up knowing what should I post on social media, I get that question all the time. So, one of the first things that I usually share with clients, I share this with colleagues all the time. One of the quickest ways to determine what type of content you should be posting on social media is being able to first start with defining your brand values. So, how many of you have ever done that exercise in your business where you have defined your brand values? Do you know what value or what your brand stands for? And so I know a lot of times when people talk about branding, they have the conversation about the look and the feel of the brand, but part of your brand is also the messaging and what it is that you are communicating through your brand. And so when we take a look at content, you want to make sure that your content aligns with your values. Now, I know this is a big one, and this is what I tell people all the time. And I see Facebook user have say is saying I have. And it's so important because a lot of times social media can be that place where if you are not careful, you can get kind of roped in to certain conversations, right? And what I usually tell people when I take a look at my social media is not that I don't see different conversations in the marketplace. I see all the rants and everything that's going on, but it takes a level of thought behind of it. And so one of the things, if it's not in alignment with what I do for my business, and I'm not talking about personal social media, I'm talking about what you do for your business and how you show up, if it's not in alignment, with my brand, then I'm not going to post it. I'm not going to share it. So it doesn't mean that I don't see the conversation, but I'm very careful. I have that awareness of the value that I'm communicating with my brand. And part of your brand values is also the communication that you have in the marketplace, not just the things that you're putting out, but the things that you are responding to. And then also with that being said, I'll say this. Even if there's a topic that might not be directly related to your brand, if you make the decision to go ahead and engage in a conversation, how can you tie it back to your brand? How can you allow your values to, be seen through your comment, or be seen through what it is that you're posting on social media? And so once again, like I said, these are the things that require a little bit of extra thought before we post on social media. And the reason why I say that is because one of the things that you want to make sure is that you are always in the habit of reinforcing your brand identity. Okay. And then also, when it comes to why every story, and I'm using the word story, and I'm going to use the word content. So let me kind of back up a little bit. So one of the things that I've also learned is that the thing that brings content to life is your connecting stories. And as you share your content, as you share your experiences online with your audience, you always want to make sure that you are in alignment. And so the third thing that this will do for you is allow you to establish trust and credibility with your audience. And I just said it, you could always tell by people's conversations where they are, not only where they are in their business, but where they are in their life as well, by the way and the manner in which they engage online. And this is really so important because this is the key factor that allows us to build loyalty and create community around our business and community around our brands. And so I see Peg is out there saying, yes, brand values are so important. And I'll just go ahead and I'll say this, Peg. Like I said, I've been in this, space for quite some time, and I wish that was one of the things that someone had said to me earlier on when I first started, my business, to take the time to really understand and know and define my brand values, and then also be able to communicate my brand values in the marketplace. And so I didn't really get an understanding of that concept until I relaunched my business for the second time. And when I did that, what happened for my business, it took on, first of all, a whole totally different, not only a look, but also a different feel. I started to attract different people to my business, and then serving, and that's my favorite word, serving became an easier place, because once again, by communicating my values, I started to attract the people who were in alignment with the values. So that's one of the first things that I'm going to say. If you have not done that exercise already, and I think this is the thing, we have our brand values up here. Most people do, or what we value. But the problem is we don't take it from up here and communicate it out here, or put it out here into the world so people know. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to encourage everyone to do. If you have not done that, determine or define what your brand values are, and then start to communicate your brand values out into the marketplace. And so the next thing, and I get this question all the time, is why is it that stories work? So, how many of you are out there, you're posting content, and as you hit the send button on your content, it's like you watch and you want to know, like, okay, how is my audience receiving the content? Anyone do that? Is it just me? You make a post and then you come back and you keep checking, and you want to know, is this content, is it hitting, is it landing? Okay, why isn't anyone engaging with the content? And so, one of the things that I had to learn how to do is to make sure that I am sharing content in such a way that it will be received by my audience. So, another one of the questions that I get all the time is, how do I come up with the content to do a Facebook Live every single week? And here's the thing, I've trained myself to learn to think in terms of stories. And when I say stories, stories are nothing but experience. And so, as a coach, as a consultant out there, what are some of the experiences that you have around your content that will allow you to share and bring the content to life? And one of the things that we say here as we work through our Unleash the Power of Your Story, that's the program that I do with Suzanne Hart. One of the things that we want to make sure that our super achievers get is to know your stories is what give context to your content. You have to wrap your content in a story. And I've heard this when I started my journey on entrepreneur. I think it was Les Brown who said it. Don't quote me, I could be wrong. That said it. Never tell a story without making a point, and never make a point without telling a story. And so, this is the main difference between talking at your audience and talking with your audience. So you always want to make sure that you create the environment for your audience to understand your content, understand your teaching, and understand the lessons that you are putting forth. Because otherwise, without the story, number one, they would struggle to know, is this content for me? Because who are you speaking to? Can I identify myself in the story or in the content that you're sharing? So most people don't really identify in the content, but they identify in the story, because the story is what number one says, hey, this is for you. And then you paint the picture for them and they say, oh yes, that's me. And now that you have them locked in and tuned in, then they're better able to receive the content that you are sharing. Okay. And so the next thing that I'm going to share or talk about is how to turn your social media into a storyboard. Now, this is a concept that I have been thinking and terming, over and over again, how to get your social media, how do we make our social media to play like a storyboard? And so when you think about it, oh, I see your message, Suvik. Thank you so much. When you think about it, when you have people that tune in to your social media, and whether they tune into you on Facebook, whether they connect with you on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever your platform may be, how does your social media take them on a journey? And when I say take them on a journey, from everything that you share on your social media, whether it be a post, whether it be videos, whether it be your reels that you share, your stories that you share, are you able to communicate an experience and transport people from the place that they are to their journey of transformation? And so when you take a look at social media, that's one of the things that I say all the time. Social media is just one big old storyboard, and this is the place where your brand story lives. It's your opportunity for you to take your audience on a journey. And so, how many of you have started to think about your social media in terms of a storyboard? Or if you're out there, do you even know what a storyboard is? How many of you have ever thought about, storyboarding out your social media? Okay, so if you've thought about that, go ahead, drop a comment and just let me know, and we could kind of explore what that looks like. And like I said, it's one of the things in being able to shift, and especially in the times that we are in now, where we are seeing such a shift in the content that's being shared on social media. So things are being move from written content to video, and not just video, but videos are now getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So it becomes very imperative for us as we take a look at our social media. How do we get the thought, the effort behind of that, so we are always hitting the mark on our social media? And like I said, one of the things that I've learned to do is think about, what is it that I want to convey on my social media? What's the journey that I want to take the audience on? And then once I decide what that is, how do I formulate the content that would allow people to do that, and being able to formulate content to fit different formats on different social media platforms. So I see what you're asking, Stephanie. Does each post have to pick up where the last one left off? So that's a very great question in terms of storyboarding, Stephanie. And I will say yes, and I will kind of say no. And here's why I could say no, generally no, because you don't have to get in such a detail manner where you are going back and you say, well, I talked about this last week, or I made a post on this last week, so let me go ahead and make my post one consecutive conversation. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I'll share with you one of the tricks that I've learned is to, when I break my content down, take a look first at what type of content I'm producing. And so this is a very good example, Stephanie. One of the things that I've committed to do every week is to do a Facebook Live in the form of our Influencers Journey show. And so when I take a look at the conversations that I am having around this topic, what are the things that I do is look at how many different formats can I have this conversation in. And this is what I mean by storyboarding. So if you start to take a look at your social media in the vein of you're going to have one conversation a week, and then from that conversation a week, how many different formats can you have that conversation in? So, one of the formats that I'm having the conversation in is on this Facebook Live. And so, one of the things that I might decide to do is that, what? I could write an article for the website, or I could write an article for our audience on our email list. Same conversation, but in a different format. So once again, the conversation that I'm going to write in my email still has to be storyboarded out. I still have to be able to take that audience, on their journey from the time they open up the email all the way to the end. So what do I want that picture to look like? And then also, I might decide and take the same conversation and take this conversation over to Instagram or take it over to TikTok. Now, I could stay in this conversation for an entire week on those formats. Why? Or those platforms. Why? Because the format of their content is shorter. So, how can I break this conversation down into these small little pieces that will fuel my social media for the week? I'm hoping that that makes sense to you. And this is one of the secrets and one of the tips that I've learned when it comes to doing social media, that a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because we want to produce, everything is new, and you don't necessarily have to be in new creation mode every minute of the day. The question you should be asking, though, is how can I get more life from the content that I produce? So instead of thinking of producing more content, how can I get more life from the content that I am producing? Now, Stephanie and super achievers out there, there's also another part to this question. And so when we take a look at storyboarding our social media, one of the things that I've found a lot of people don't really understand how to do with social media is to give their social media tracks to run on. And so, what do I mean by tracks to run on? I mean, do you have what I call pillar content in your business or for your brand? Do you have pillar content for your brand? So, Taria, what do you mean pillar content? So, I'm going to take that conversation back to defining your brand values. So, when you take a look at your pillar content, there's usually 4 to 6 major pillars that your content will stand on. So I'll give you an example. Mine is shine. And so I talk about how to make your brand shine online. And when I talk about shining online, there's 5%, not specific. There's 5 specific areas or 5 specific pillars that I'm talking about. So I talk about being able to show up in the marketplace and show up consistently. I talk about being able to hone in on your content, hone in on who your divine clients are and how you serving them. So that's one thing you have to be very clear on that. So that's the honing in. How to make an impact and influence in the marketplace. That's another pillar. How to nurture and create relationships online. And then how to create that experience, how to take your audience on a journey. So when I take a look at content that I'm producing in my social media, content falls into one of those 5 pillars. Okay. And so once you start to I should say, before you lay it out, when you start to think about your social media from that vein, number one, it keeps you clear and focused on your conversations that you're going to have in the marketplace. It makes it easier for you to think about the type of content that you want to produce. And then it also makes it easier for you to pull on those stories. So what are the experience or the experiences that you have or you see that will bring the content that you want to put out into the marketplace to life? So I'm hoping, Stephanie and everybody else, that that lands for you. And if you have a process on how you develop your content and how you are putting your stuff out into the marketplace, I would love to know. So just go ahead and take a minute and drop that into the comment section and let me know. So once again, Stephanie, I am hoping that that answers. So I'm going to take a minute and take a look at our comments that we have out there. So once again, great morning, Kelly King Jackson. Thank you so much for taking a moment to join us. And I see that Peg is out there. Great morning, Peg Duchesne. How are you? Thank you so much for tuning in. You are one of our super achievers because you show up every Saturday for our Influencers Journey show. And so I see that there's a question out here on the floor that says, what should I post? So I'm hoping that I just answered your question when it comes to what should you be posting on social media. So it's very important for us as business owners and entrepreneurs, coaches, we have brands. You want to be able to post the things that are in alignment with your brand. And so a lot of times what people feel safe and comfortable doing on social media is promoting the events or promoting the programs and services, because it gives them the opportunity to say, well, I know for sure I'm in business, and this is one type of content that I know I'm going to do. I'm going to stay in the promotion mode. But here's the thing, your audience, before they buy from you, they have to buy you. They have to buy into you, and they have to buy into your conversation. And so it should be, once again, what are the conversations that you are going to put out there in the marketplace? And as you start to answer the question, what stories am I going to put out there? What's the content? And then what's the story that I'm going to wrap around this content to bring it to life? This gives your audience the opportunity to say, you know what? This person is for me. I like what they're putting down. I could see myself in their content. I could see myself in the way that they help. I have a connection. We call this your emotional branding. So are you developing that emotional brand for your business? So I hope that that helps. All right. Okay, and I see Facebook user saying social media is like a ravenous machine that eats up time. How do you manage social media so it's not all consuming of time? Stephanie, that is the number one question that I get all the time. How do you do social media in such a way that it doesn't suck up your day? Because after all, if you're running a business, you're running your business in what you're running your business in, and you didn't sign up to be a social media manager, right? So sometimes it could feel like that you have just turned in to a social media manager. So one of the things that I say, Stephanie, that will take care of that, it's all in the planning. So, are you planning to be consistent? And this is one of the big conversations that I have all the time. So, just like everything else you do in your business, so as a business owner, there's lots of stuff for us to do. We got to develop programs, we got to serve our clients, we got to take care of business related issues, development, all of that stuff. Your social media is no different. What I've found though is that a lot of people don't really block the time out to do their social media. And when I say block the time out, how many of you are there still doing inspirational social media? When I say inspirational social media, this is what I mean. When you have an idea or you have a thought or an inspiration hits you, it's easy for you to jump on your computer or pick up your phone and start to write the post. And if you're anything like me, what would happen? You would be in that post, you're writing it, and then you start to second guess what you wrote. You got to go edit it at least 3 times before you hit the send button on it. And before you know it, and you hold your head up, 2 hours have passed. And because you didn't plan to give 2 hours of your day at that time to social media, you're frustrated because you have eaten up time or taking away time from doing something else in your business. Anyone experience that? So, what I've learned how to do is plan to be consistent. So, this all ties back. So, the first thing is knowing what conversations you want to have in the marketplace. Like, that's the biggest, like 95% of the battle. The second thing is allotting time in your schedule to take care of it. So, one of the things that I know that I do every week, I'm committed to doing our Influencers Journey show. So, that's blocked on the calendar every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, what I know with the Influencers Journey show, it takes time to prepare to do the show. So, I have several things to do in order to make a show run, right? I got to think about the content, I got to write the content, I got to produce imagery for the content, all of that stuff. The question becomes, what time am I blocking on my calendar to do that? So, do you have a writing time in your business that's set aside for you to write your content or set aside for you to work on your social media? And this part, Stephanie, really doesn't take long. Okay, so you could say, you know what, each week I'm going to spend 1 to 2 hours a week and I'm going to work on my social media. So, determining what day, what time you're going to work on your social media, set it on your calendar and honor it. That's the thing that sometimes a lot of us we don't do. We don't honor the things that are on our calendar. So, honor it. And in that time, you could knock out your content for a week. So in just 2 hours, you could knock out your content for a week. So whether you are planning to do a video, whether you're doing written posts, whether you are doing short form video, whether it's for your reels or your stories, map out the time. Like, take a look at the task, take a look at what's needed, and then start to break those things down and put them on your calendar to get it done. And so When you do that, then social media does not become this whole time consuming thing that you get stuck with. And I like what you're saying, Barbara. This information is so valuable in what you're coaching fee. Yeah, so that's one of my commitments, Barbara, is to, and this is why we're talking about the stories, right? This is one of the things that, or these are some of the things that I should say that I've learned the hard way on the journey, because I just said I was that person who would get up just on a whim, flip open, my phone and start to write a post, and then realize that I didn't have all the elements to write a post. I got to write the post. I got to go find a picture. Yeah, I got to put my call to actions, and I got to go look for hashtags. All of that stuff is work, right? So it's the planning that you put behind of it. So make sure that you are blocking time on your calendar, and then you are honoring that time on your calendar to work on it. And so, Barbara, I know you just said this information is valuable and worth a coaching fee. So, Barbara is also one of our super achievers. She's also one of my clients. Okay. And Barbara will tell you, when we first started working together, she said the same thing. Oh my goodness, Turia, this is a lot of work. But in being able to implement the process, okay, then it has, lessened the effect of feeling overwhelmed. And one of the things that I absolutely enjoy about Barbara is watching her show up in her business online and putting those conversations, those thoughtful conversations that allow her to connect with her audience and then attract the people who she is divinely called to serve. And so that's the power of planning. Okay, so great, great, great questions. And I love it. So, one of the things that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share 5 things, and it's going back in the vein of taking a look at your social media as a storyboard. So, one of the things that I just realized that I did not do was to define what a storyboard is. And so, a storyboard, if you don't know what a storyboard is, it's a graphic portrayal of a narrative, a concept, a script divided into sequences or scenes. Okay. And like I said, that's our challenge, or that's the beautiful challenge that we have in front of us as we now take a look at our social media. So, in order for us to do this and do this successfully, there are 5 things that need to happen. So, the first thing that definitely needs to happen is for you to be able to identify your audience. So, who are you talking to online? So, do you know who your audience is? Have you defined who your audience is? And when we talk about defining our audience, we're moving more, a little bit past, or I should say a whole lot more past, knowing what our demographics are. So people will tell you, you need to know if your audience that you're serving is male, female, what age range do they fall into, what demographic, like where do they live, all of that stuff. That's great. You need to know that. Then you also have, the psychographics. What are their pain points and their desires? What are the problems that they have? I like to call that the 2 a.m. problem that they have, that your products and services are designed to solve for them. So do you know the problem that you have, that they have, and do you have a solution that will be able to solve their problem, and can you communicate that on social media? Okay. And then also, when it comes to identifying your audience, the thing that we talked about, which is also the emotional branding part of it. So, are you doing what we call social listening? And can you hear their conversation in the marketplace? So, when you communicate back to them in whatever format, that they're able to recognize themselves in your content. Okay. So, that's the first thing. The second thing you want to take a look at is you want to identify your goals for social media. So do you have clear goals for your social media? What is it that you want to achieve when you are on social media? And so identify your goals. The third thing that you want to take a look at is being able to, once again, know what your message is. So, what's your message, or what's your connecting conversation in the marketplace that's in alignment to your why? So, what are you going to communicate out there that's in alignment to your brand story? And then when you do that, when you take a look at your messaging and the thing that you want to communicate, you want to start to ask yourself, what are the stories or what are the experiences that I can share that brings this content to life? Now, it could be your personal experience, something that you have gone through on your own. It could be an experience from a client and working through a client and how you've helped that client overcome that challenge. And you're now going to use that story to find more people like that particular client. So it's always thinking about what are the experiences or what are the stories that would allow me to bring the content to life. And then lastly, step number 5 you want to do is create an experience. And I say this all the time. When we take a look at influencers that we follow in the marketplace, I know each of us have a favorite influencer. When you take a look at your favorite influencer, or you tune in to your favorite influencer, it's almost like that influencer is taking you on a journey every time you connect. That's why we connect with them. We feel inspired through their content. We can not only see the good things that are happening, but we see the challenges sometimes, and they're not afraid to talk about the challenging thing and then allow people to see how they're moving through their transformation as well. And so, can you create that journey of transformation for your clients and allow that story to play on your social media? Okay. And so I'm just taking a minute to check to see if I have any more comments coming in. And so I do. So if you know you have a story, but you've never thought about making money with this, please share what the potential is for those who choose to step and share life lessons on stage or in social media. Can this be a career? Oh, Stephanie. Yes, it can be. And let me just kind of back it up, because there's so many things that I want to say here in this. This is the reason why we step into business in the first place. So remember, the whole part about being a business owner, you're in business to do what? You're in business to solve problems. So you don't have a viable business unless you're able to solve a problem in the marketplace. So the problem that you solve in the marketplace is you do that through your products and your services. Now, here's a cool thing about that, or the other side of that. A lot of times we know we have, a solution, whether that solution be a physical product, whether it be a program or a service that we offer. The question becomes, how do we find our people for the solutions that we have to offer? Okay. And the way that we find, or let me change that because I'm also changing my wording. So the way that we attract the people to our business is by doing exactly this, is by knowing how to share your story, and share your story in such a way that people, once again, see themselves in your story. They know that you have a journey of transformation, and then that's what they buy into with your products and your service. And then the way that we do that, Stephanie, is we have to be able to communicate that into the marketplace, hence on stage. So whether you are on a live stage and you're speaking to an audience at a conference, you're hosting your event, or you're taking advantage of opportunities that's afforded to each and every single one of us that's on this live right now, this is a stage. This is also your opportunity for you to get your message into the world and share your story coupled with the things that you've learned to attract and build your audience. Okay. And so when we take a look, can this be a career? Most definitely, Stephanie. This is the thing that each and every single one of us who have a business that we're charged with. So, in case you didn't know, we are all, marketers, because we have to be able to communicate what we do into the marketplace. So if you're not communicating what you do into the marketplace, then my dear, you don't have a business. One of the things that I'm toying with, and so this gives me the opportunity to try it on you guys this morning. So one of the things I've been, playing around with. So they say this all the time. So if a tree falls in the woods and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? So if you have, a business, but you're not getting your message out into the marketplace, then do you have viable products and services? You wouldn't know, because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to talk about it, get people attracted to your messaging, and take people through your products and services. Okay. So a lot of times that's what happens. We know that we have these great ideas. We know that we have these awesome solutions that we provide for our audience, but we're doing ourselves a disservice when we don't show up in the marketplace. Okay. So the call is show up. Remember, my brand values, my first pillar is to be able to show up. Okay. So, yes, Stephanie, it definitely can be a career. All right. And so the last thing that I'm going to talk about is I'm going to share a how to. And one of the things that I always promise myself to do when we're on here, Suzette and I, is to make sure that we leave you super achievers with some type of strategy around the topic that we are talking about. So, the how to use one story to fuel your social media for the week. And I think I started to answer that question up top before in the conversation, but I'll go over it again. So, this all goes back to taking a moment to plan out your content. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have tracks to run on for your social media. You want to make sure that you have your pillars, okay? Your tracks or your pillars are going to help you tighten in on the conversations that you're going to have in the marketplace. Okay, so what are the 4 to 6 broad topics that you're going to have conversations in the marketplace with, that would allow you to showcase your products and your services, or how you serve in the marketplace? That's number one. And so you have to make sure that you are scheduling time on your calendar to plan that out. Not just put it on your calendar and say, hey, I got it on my calendar, but you have to be intentional about it. You have to honor it. Okay. And so once you have determined, in your content planning process, the conversations that you're going to have, then you're going to start to take a look at how you are going to break that one conversation that you have a week down into different formats, and come up with creative ways that are going to allow you to get your audience to be engaged with you. So one of the things that you might want to think of from this topic that I'm going to have this week, you know I'll develop a poll question. So, what's the question that I could ask my audience that would bring this topic to life, that would get them engaged, that would give me the opportunity to learn a little bit more about where my audience is standing in relation to this particular topic? And so this falls under the category that I love to talk about in the social success cycle, and it's called social listening. So how well are you giving yourself the opportunity to do some social listening into the marketplace? Okay. The second thing that you might want to do, actually, is the third thing that you might want to do, is you want to be able to pull out from that topic, what are your juicy nuggets, your golden nuggets, your quotables that you are going to put out into, once again, into the social media space that would give voice, your voice, into the marketplace. And so a lot of times what, and I've done this too, so this is why my social media wasn't working in the beginning. What I was busy doing was sharing other people's content. So what do I mean by content? You see a nice quote, and the first thing you say, oh, this is a nice quote, let me go ahead, create an image, let me put this quote on a graphic. But the thing is, people are liking it. And what I'm doing is building and securing somebody else's influence in the marketplace. And my voice goes unheard. And so, from the content that you're developing for the week, what are your three golden nuggets? Like I like to call it, what are your Stephanie isms? What are your Barbara isms? What are your Peg isms that you're going to put, out there? Your Mia isms that you're going to put out there, that when people read this, they are remembering and they're anchoring those quotables back to you. And so what that is doing is building your influence in the marketplace, and you're not building somebody else's influence. Okay? So the fourth thing is developing a magnetic message. So I talked about that earlier too. I say one of the things that we're committed to do is writing a long form content that we use for our blog. And we also send this long form content out to our email list. So I liken this. How many of you like to read magazines? So maybe it's Oprah magazine. I'm calling my favorites. Oprah magazine, maybe it's Essence magazine. Yes, I still do read Essence magazine. One of the first things that you will always see in a magazine is a letter from the editor. And what the letter from the editor is going to do is frame up the whole conversation and the theme for the magazine. So, can you start to think of what's my letter that I'm going to write to my audience this week? Okay. And like I said, that letter becomes something that you send out via your email, or it could be the blog that hangs on your website that you share other places on social media. And then my favorite, live video, like we're doing here. So, from that same topic that you have, can you have a conversation? And the answer is yes, right? So have a conversation, a live discussion similar to what's happening now, where you would have the opportunity to engage in the best way with your audience. And so one of the things that I love about doing live videos, this covers like all three. So you could once again do social listening. So I learn just as much from our super achievers every time I turn on my camera as you guys learn from me. So it's not a one-way street. I'm not just putting information out there and then you guys get the benefit. I get the benefit too because I'm getting the feedback, right? So social listening, social influence, I get the opportunity to put my thoughts, my ideas out into the marketplace. I have the opportunity to stay in community, which is a social networking, and then social selling. When I do have products and services to offer and put out into the marketplace, I have built an audience. Number one, a loyal following, and number two, have established trust and credibility for or through my content with my audience. Okay, so those are the, I believe it's six. I lost count. The six things, or the six parts of the strategy, six strategies on how you could use one story, just one story a week, to fuel your social media content for the week. Okay, and okay, echo back the quotables. Yes. Barbara, don't laugh at me. I think they still have a magazine. I hope I'm not dating myself. I think they do. But that's one of the things that I enjoy reading is a letter to the editor by Suzanne Taylor. So every month you get the magazine, you open it up, and then there's this beautiful message from Suzanne Taylor. And I know Oprah definitely does it in her magazine. The first two pages, you get a letter from Oprah, right? And so, yes, Peg, that's the thing. Going back to the quotables, this is one of the realizations that I had to come to as well. So, one of the things is we do such a good job of hyping other people up, but sometimes we need to hype ourselves up too, because we're brilliant. We have ideas that we're putting out into the marketplace. So yes, start to think about, what are your quotables? What are your sound bites? What are the things, the golden nuggets that you want to leave your audience with? So when they say these things, the first person that they think about Peg. And that's it. So the challenge is, you notice I didn't say come up with 10 for a week. I said come up with, three a week. That's it. And for all of our quick super achievers out there who are good with math, just imagine multiplying 3 by 52. That's how many quotables you have at the end of the year. That's just about your sayings. Okay. So, and it's a really great challenge, to give yourself, to start to think about that. And then Stephanie is saying, this is such rich content you're sharing. Thank you, Stephanie. This is one of my favorite ways to serve. So, once again, thank you so much for tuning in, enjoying. And then Mia says, all right, cuz Mia ism. What are your quotables? Mia Smith Collins. Yeah. So that's the thing, your Mia isms, right? And we all have them. As we go through our story, we go through our experiences, the things that we have said, to ourselves along the journey that has helped us move through our transformation. So why not turn around and share those things with your audience? Oh, okay. And I see great speech in the group, Peyton, TEDx for sure. All right. Awesome. So, with that being said, let me make sure I take a moment to once again invite you to join us on our Unleash the Power of Your Story 5-day challenge. So, here's what I want to leave each of you with. If you have not had the opportunity to join us for either our Unleash the Power of Your Story masterclass or the Unleash the Power of Your Story challenge, this is your opportunity to do so. So I looked at some of the questions that came across today, and I could tell that most of you are out there, you have a story, you want to share the story, you want to be able to put your message out there in the marketplace to get recognized, seen, and hired and paid what you're worth. This is your opportunity, because what we do in over the course of the 5-day challenge, we actually walk you through our talk template. So we actually have a template, and I'm going to tell you, game shifter plug. It wasn't until I started to implement this talk structure for my business, and I did not create the talk structure. It was created by none other than Suzanne Hart, who's not here right now because she's on a freestyle training program. But once I understood it and I started to implement it for my business, it changed, it shifted a whole bunch of things for me. And then one of the things that I found out very quickly is once I started to overlay it with my social media took on a different form. Okay. So if you, like you said, you are asking all of these questions, you want to know how to make your social media take off, you want to know how to show up more powerful on the live and virtual stage, join us for the 5 days. Okay. Because this is actually not just a written challenge. We're not just going to tell you a whole bunch of stuff and then you go off and forget about it. We're challenging you to bring your authentic self to the stage. So this is a video challenge. So you will have the opportunity for each day as we share our content, you have a chance to go and put it into practice. And by the end of the 5 days, you would have all the elements to create a great talk into the marketplace. So that's what we're up to. So if you have not registered as yet to join us, make sure you take a minute to go to utpchallenge.com. Once again, it is utpchallenge.com. Reserve your seat. We start Monday, April the 3rd through April the 7th, and we're looking forward to just having an amazing time. And kudos to the people who have already registered and secured their seat on the challenge. We are super excited. We're putting the finishing touches on everything, and we're looking forward to an amazing week. So, with that being said, I'm going to leave everyone with the thought of the week. So, whether or not you desire to write comes from the urge to not just be creative, it is a need, one every human being on earth has to help others. A well told story is a gift to the reader, the listener, the viewer, because it teaches them how to confront their own discomforts. So I'm going to read that again because I want this to land for everyone. Whether you know it or not, your desire to write comes from the urge not just to be creative, but the need one and every human being on earth has to help each other. A well told story is a gift to the reader, listener, viewer, because it teaches them how to confront their own discomforts. And this is by Sean Kanye from The Story Grid. So, once again, super achievers, thank you so much for taking your time to spend it with me on this beautiful day. And take care until next time. Bye bye.